Namaskar. First of all, let me summarize what we have tried to understand in the previous sessions very quickly. We have understood that the broad meaning of the word Tantra is to liberate man to a higher conscious level of existence through the expansion of consciousness. We have learned that consciousness is our innate, inherent awareness of being aware. It is the self-awareness that I am. That consciousness itself is what really we are. We are not this body. We are not this mind. Our body and mind are the material possessions of the consciousness that we are. We can compare this state of ours to a prison bird provided with a mind for self-protection and preservation, but locked in a cage, that is the body. It is only with the expansion of that consciousness we can earn our eternal release from this imprisonment. Even without realizing that we are consciousness enduring imprisonment in our body, we are all happily living here, enjoying this limited prison life. We are ignorantly living our prison life with several external goals and ambitions that we think are necessary for a comfortable life on earth. Well, there is nothing wrong per se in that, in setting material goals in life. But the sad truth is that we are forgetting and ignoring the extremely important inner goal of expansion of consciousness, which is the only way to gain release from this bodily imprisonment. In fact, the goal of all religions is to enable us to be liberated through this inner evolution. While all religions give their followers their own plan for the expansion of consciousness and compel them to strictly follow what is given to them, Tantra gives a huge bouquet of several methods for the expansion of consciousness that fits each person's individual current level of awareness. And it asks everyone to take the one that suits you the best, but without any compulsion. That is to say, Tantra is not a religion, but a way of life. That is what we have learned till now. With a proper understanding of what Tantra is and why Tantra is, we can eliminate the antagonisms amongst the religions that exist today. It is just that the religions have not told us that their goal too is the expansion of consciousness. Instead, religions taught us about God and taught us about how to worship God, which is eventually for the expansion of consciousness. The word God itself has been around here for thousands of years now. The word God means many things to many people. The figurines and seals of Lord Shiva seated on Mulabandhasana have been found in the ruins of Indus Valley civilization. Mulabandha Asana is one of the most important asanas mentioned in the Tantric texts for the expansion of consciousness. From this, it can be reasonably inferred that Tantra predates the Indus Valley civilization. The Indus Valley civilization is considered to date from 3300 to 1300 AD. This is safe to assume that Tantra is now at least 5500 years old. Now, as a form of practice, let us see how Tantra compares with the various religions of today. Judaism, Buddhism and Zoroastrianism are 2600 years old. Christianity is 2000 years old. Islam is 1400 years old. Sikhism is 500 years old. From this, all the religions that exist today are of recent origin compared to Tantra. All religions basically strive for the same development of consciousness. The way it is done is the way of worship of those respective religions. It is estimated that there are 64 types of techniques in Tantra that are designed to suit the different mentalities of individuals for the expansion of their consciousness. Tantra has no objection whatsoever to the addition of a few more methods by religions such as Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, Sikhism. Whichever method is adopted, the sole objective of Tantra is to achieve the purpose of expansion of consciousness. It is because of this intuitive awareness within the psyche of the people in the Indian subcontinent that Indian culture has embraced all religions with open arms down through centuries. That is the unity of diversity of India. That is the legacy of India. What is God and who is God? The 36 tattvas of building blocks of Tantra will give us an unprecedented level of clarity in this regard. These 36 tattvas of Tantra are closely related to the events in the creation of the universe. Our science started describing the creation with the Big Bang event. The easiest way to understand how Tantra describes the whole process of creation is by following the same method of inquiry adopted by the ancient sages of India. The great sages of ancient India first investigated the ultimate truth of our life. That is one of the oldest and fundamental questions. What is the ultimate truth here? That is the most important question asked by both the ancient and the modern thinkers. Where were we before we were born? Where do we go after our death? We do not know. Everything appears and disappears in this life. Nothing permanent is seen here. Even if you keep an iron nail somewhere, over time it will rust and disappear on its own. All who are born will die. At the same time, everyone without exception longs for happiness. Even if we find happiness now and then, it will soon lose its power and will then totally disappear. Meaning, happiness gives way to unhappiness. So is the case of sorrow. Whatever sorrow comes, that too diminishes in intensity and eventually totally it disappears. Then another cycle of happiness arrives. However, neither happiness nor unhappiness is eternal. We have observed this strange phenomenon in our lives directly, haven't we? It is like a roller coaster ride where happiness and unhappiness alternate. Everyone born here will die. We too will die one day. What then is the basis of this life? What is the greatest truth here? Let us start with the study of the basic concept of Tantra from the answer India's ancient sages found to this basic fundamental question. What is the ultimate truth? What is the definition of ultimate truth? Before investigating anything, we need to have a clear idea of what we are looking for. Otherwise, the investigation will go wrong. What are we looking for? What is the ultimate, what is the greatest truth of life? This is what we are looking for. Everyone is born here and dies after a while. Everyone wants comfort and happiness. There is no one here who does not want happiness. But there is no one here who has found eternal comfort and happiness either. If we try to understand it very carefully, we will understand that happiness and sorrow are just a phenomenon that comes and goes alternatingly to each other. So, what is the ultimate truth here? We have to find that truth. How do we recognize the truth, the ultimate truth, if we find? What is the specification or a clear definition of that ultimate truth that we are seeking? According to the ancient sages, in order for a matter or an object to be accepted as absolute truth, it must satisfy three conditions. Come to think of it, it's a very precise definition. 1. If the object or a thing is to be accepted as absolute truth, there must not be any need for a second object or a second thing to exist, causing its existence. It must be self-existing. It must be eternal with no beginning and no end, without any sort of dependence on anything else. That is the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth must be non-dual. That is, if an object is to be accepted as absolute truth, then there must never be a need for a second object causing its birth or causing or supporting its existence. For example, if there is a daughter, it is certain that the daughter has a mother. That mother has another mother. That mother will have another mother, and so on and so forth. It will continue ad infinitum. So, neither the daughter nor the mother can be accepted as absolute truth. If ever there is a mother without another mother causing her birth, then that mother alone is the one who satisfies the first of these three conditions. Such an entity or a thing alone must be accepted as the absolute truth. This is the first condition put forward by the ancient sages. Now, the second condition. For an object to be accepted as absolute truth is that it must have omnipresence and it must be all-pervading. That is, it must not be limited by anything else at all. Something that is limited by time and space cannot be accepted as the absolute truth. For example, my body is not the absolute truth, because if I want to reach New Delhi from here, my body has to be on the plane for at least 4 hours. Time and space are limiting my body. A finite one cannot be accepted as the absolute truth. But using my mind, I can mentally reach Delhi in a matter of nanoseconds. So my mind is somewhat limitless compared to my body. But my mind is not the absolute truth either, because my mind does not obey the first condition stated earlier. My mind is existing because I exist. My mind will not exist if I do not exist. That is, the existence of my mind is limited by my own existence. Not only that, my mind cannot reach out for something that I am unaware of. Imagine I have never been to Timbuktu, or I have not seen the photographs of Timbuktu. Then my mind cannot reach Timbuktu. That is a limitation. A limited one cannot be accepted as the ultimate truth. Therefore, the second condition put forward by the ancient sages is that the absolute truth must be one that fills the entire universe. It is therefore a place in the universe it should not be a place in the universe that absolute truth is not there. If it is there, that is a weakness. That is a limitation. So a limited one cannot be accepted as absolute truth. Therefore, only the omnipresent, all-pervading entity can be said to be the absolute truth. Everything you see here has limitations. What we see today will not be seen tomorrow. What is here is not there. Everything is limited by space and time. So, what you see here, include me and you, is not the absolute truth. Now then, the third condition is that the absolute truth must never be subject to change. That is, the absolute truth must be one that remains unchanged, eternal, and permanent. For example, when you look in the mirror, you notice that your hair has turned grey and your face has developed dark freckles. We have changed. You are no longer the young person that you once were. So, we cannot be the absolute truth. There is nothing that does not change here. We noticed a while ago that even an iron nail would rust and disappear in course of time. The ancients therefore stipulated that the absolute truth must be one that remains unchanged and constant. Think about it. How precisely scientific was their approach? They were akin to scientists. Ancient scientists defined that only that fully satisfies all these three conditions can be accepted as absolute truth. Rishis are the names of these ancient scientists. Their only goal was to find the absolute truth. The name they gave to such an absolute truth at that time is Parabrahman. If you want, you can call it X factor. It doesn't matter. You can call it God, Allah, Yehovah, Father, or whatever. It is just the differing names, but the concept is the same. That absolute truth has no form. If there is a form, it is a limitation. If there is a form, it will not have omnipresence because it is limited by that form. Let us examine whether the concept of Parabrahman is one that can satisfy all the three conditions of the absolute truth. It is eternal. It is something that has always existed and will never cease to exist. It is eternal. It has no beginning or end. The second condition of Parabrahman is that it should be omnipresent, all-pervading, and unlimited. Since Parabrahman is the name given to the absolute truth, it must be omnipresent and all-pervading. Naturally, Parabrahman must be fulfilling the third condition of changelessness too. Thus, Parabrahman is the ultimate truth that is non-dual, that is all-pervading, omnipresent, eternal, limitless, and that is changeless. That Parabrahman is just another word for consciousness with a capital C. The two are the same. That is the same invisible consciousness with a small letter C that is within us, within everything around us. By definition, the Parabrahman is everything, and hence it is within each one of us also. It is the I factor in us, as well as in all that we see here. The famous aphorism, Pragyanam Brahma, is the utterances of the ancient rishis when this realization dawned upon them. If our limited human mind have to imagine and comprehend something, it needs a name and a form. That is our limitation. The extent of that limitation is to varying degrees in each one of us. So, people called the same ultimate truth by many different names as their minds could grasp it. In the Indian tradition, the ultimate truth, Parabrahman, was called by the synonymous names like Parameshwaran, Mahadevan. Tantra called it Parasamvit. Christianity called it the Father of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Trinity. Islam called it Allah, and in Judaism it is called Yahuwah. The only difference is in the name. These are all synonymous with the ultimate truth as defined earlier. The Parabrahman that the sages had so precisely defined, they called it Parabrahman. I am the husband of my wife. I am the father of my son. I am the brother of my siblings. Many call me by many different names, but I am the only one. Similarly, Parabrahman is the one and the same. Everyone calls by different names according to their status of existence. So it is in vain to argue based on names. As our consciousness expands, all these differences will cease to exist. I can use a neutral name like the All to refer to the Parabrahman. The All exists in all things in the universe, and all things in the universe exist in the All. The ultimate truth is that which is not subject to change, that which is infinitely omnipresent, that which has an eternal existence of its own, without dependence on any other thing. That Parabrahman, that omnipresence, is the consciousness that exists within us in our body. The All or the Parabrahman is something that has no limitations. It is infinite. But when it occupies within the body, the infinite All becomes finite and becomes incapable of even recognizing who we are. In other words, when the infinite All came into this body, this infinite became finite by its own free will and choice. The 36 tattvas of the process of creation in Tantra give us an idea of how that infinite state becomes finite states within us. It will be much easier to expand our consciousness when we understand this stepping down process and return to our original state, so that we can return to our original state. We will discuss all that in the following sessions. Thank you.